Hi there viewers, welcome back from the weekend. Thank you so much for joining us on this very fresh edition of the news for this week. We begin right away with our major stories as usual. About 30 women are said to be under captivity in the northwest region of Cameroon, precisely around Barbanki. The women, most of them above 40, could be seen agonizing on the floor in a viral video reportedly made public by separatist fighters. And in Douala, an entire family perishes in a fire incident which happened in New Bell over the weekend. Viewers, those are our major stories. Stay with us for details and more. Welcome back, viewers. Thank you so much for according us your time for the news at 6 p.m. in the English language. We begin from the northwest region of the country. The crisis-stricken northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon continue recording atrocities. In some of the recent incidents in the northwest regions, some people have been killed and others in captivity, including more than 30 women, as Babila Jonathan tells us in the report which comes up next.
Women taken hostage in Babanki, northwest region of Cameroon, May 19, 2023, for refusing to pay a tax imposed by armed men. The women are compelled by the armed men to pay 5,000 francs CFA, men 10,000 francs CFA, and 500 francs CFA for children. But these women are said to have protested against that. They are being punished in a location not known to the general public. A voice commands them to raise their staffs, with which they took to the streets to protest against the secession movement after a night of gunshots in their locality. The voice in the video is declaring death threats against the captives. Some of them released later are under medical attention in Bamenda. Still in the northwest region, 2 men are killed by armed men. One, identified as Edward, shot to death in Bamesing after he was distinguished with a Medal of Honor during the National Unity Day celebration, and the other, Anyam Paul, gunned down in Bamenda.
And onto this other sad news element, 4 persons have died in New Bell in the Douala 2 area in a fire incident which happened over the weekend. The victims were members of the same family. 3 others survived the incident, though they incurred severe injuries. The 3 were saved by the local population. Immaculate Fogwe is our lady on that beat.
There were 7 occupants of this house, but only 3 occupants are alive today. The 3 survivors were saved by neighbors who were alerted by their call for help. Gervais Mote, the closest neighbor, had his arm burned while trying to save the victims.
The incident was caused by light. Yes. We don't know how it starts. We just wake up and see the light all in all the house. Yes. We see the light. We try to stop it. We take water, sand to try and stop the light, but nothing. But
the 3 survivors, a mother, had 2 female children, 18 and 14 years of age, were severely injured and are currently responding to treatment in a health facility.
We have tried to save 3 persons, which we saved 3 persons. But we lost four persons. So mother, his 2 children, and one of his children child. Yes, we lost them. But from now, all the quarter is crying.
The fire incident that occurred in the New Bell the Quartier neighborhood in Douala 2 subdivision burnt the entire content of the building to ashes. Rescue soldiers who arrived to the scene later prevented the flames from spreading to other buildings. Family members, neighbors and friends expressed shock and consternation over the death of the 4 victims.
Sad indeed. Now we come back to May 20 celebrations in other parts of the country. For over 14 years now, the people of Mesondo have been without electricity, while those of neighboring villages complain of lack of farm-to-market roads. These are villages in the Nyong and Kele division of the Central region. All these challenges were raised as they celebrated the Unity Day that was on the 20th of May in that area. Mala Glory completes the story for us.
Leaving Mangenge to Songbum and to Ndongbatindi in the Nyong and Kele division is a nightmare. A daunting task for farmers transporting farm produce to the market due to the slippery state of the road. This, they say, slows down development in the division because of the fact that neighboring Mesondo also complains of over 14 years of lack of electricity. Mesondo has been in darkness for over 14 years.
Il faut que la route Mangenge-Songbong.
The Mangenge, Sombom and the Ndongbantindi road should be tarred or at least make it better to help this population who depend only on agriculture. Because without road, there will be no means of development in this locality. These challenges were raised during the celebration of the National Unity Day in the area. Different schools, political groups and other associations made the day a success.
I'm very joyful because the march past was amazing, the population was fantastic, and the children were also very fantastic. And I am very happy. I'm very happy also because the national unity is a reality in Mesondo subdivision. The administrative authorities, all the armed forces and the population are living together peacefully, and I'm very happy.
In French.
Merci beaucoup.
School children at the end of the march past carried out some cultural displays and dances to crown the event.
And now, Cameroonians who stayed away from work on Friday, May 19, 2023, did so in total illegality because the day was not a public holiday, according to the law of Cameroon. A jurist explains that the day fell short of the legal dispositions of the law of 1973 revised in 1996. Let's now have more about whether or not Thursday or Friday was a public holiday with For Me and Strong Sander.
Against popular belief on what obtained, Friday, May 19, 2023 was not a public holiday in Cameroon. Dr. Louison Esomba, jurist and university lecturer, explains why this day wasn't a public holiday, though Cameroonians stayed at home observing it as such.
Alors, il faut préciser que les dispositions légales, plus précisément 1973, révisées en 1996.
It should be said that the law of 1973, revised in 1996, is so clear on this topic. A day that falls in between two public holidays should be decreed as a public holiday, and the president may decree it as such. But if the president does not, Cameroonians are obliged to come to work.
Formel qui déclare cette journée comme férié et chômé, les Camerounais ont l'obligation de se rendre au travail.
Given that the illegal public holiday affected and paralyzed both public and private sector activities, Dr. Luzon Esomba sees an issue with the interpretation of the law and text in Cameroon.
Donc, pour le cas, en réalité, les Camerounais ont fait une interprétation à première vue de la loi.
In reality, Cameroonians did a hasty interpretation of the law, which precises that the day can only be observed as a public holiday if it is accompanied by a formal act from the president, that is a decree. And if this is not done, Cameroonians have as obligation to be at work.
Donc, il s'agit d'une mauvaise interprétation des textes qui a été faite, et je pense que les Camerounais, ce jour-là, ne sont pas allés au travail à tort, parce que le chef de l'État, en réalité, n'avait pas pris l'acte formel qui faisait de cette journée une journée fériée et chômée.
He also sees a Cameroonian society where people do not like work enough and seek for every little opportunity to stay at home. On the legal implications and repercussions, the jurists highlighted that ignorance of the law is not an excuse. the university don says the economic and social impact of a public holiday on the country is usually enormous, advancing a probability to why the President of the Republic opted not to decree Friday, May 19, 2023 as a public holiday in Cameroon.
Ignorance about the law is no excuse. Thank you for me, Armstrong Sander, for that clarification. And now today has been commemorated the world over as the World Biodiversity Day. The exploitation of timber, oil, natural gas, and rainforest is intensifying. Wildlife trafficking in Cameroon has also gotten a lot of attention, and it is certainly a huge problem, but an environmental threat to Cameroon. What then is biodiversity, and how can we preserve or protect our biodiversity? A forest conservator answers these questions in the report which comes up next, compiled by Lucille Nguisi.
Located in Central Africa, Cameroon is one of the world's biodiversity centers. The country is often known as Africa in miniature because of its diverse landscapes, which include coastal areas, mountains, savanna, and rainforest. Cameroon has also been ranked fifth for fauna diversity and fourth for flora in Africa. A forest conservator throws light on the importance of biodiversity to humans.
To extend, the tolerance, we can live in places that are increasingly difficult in terms of temperature, in terms of dryness, and if we were not diverse, then some people or some species or subspecies would easily be wiped out.
However, in recent years, wildlife trade has emerged as a lucrative business across Central African region, and Cameroon is not an exception. More than 630 species in Cameroon are said to be listed as threatened on the International Union for Conservation of Nature, of which 183 are endangered and 115 are under critically endangered. As such, one of the major anthropogenic factors which account for biodiversity loss in Cameroon include commercial logging, mining, agriculture, infrastructure, rampant poaching, and rising human-wildlife conflict. At the level of the government and conservative institutions, what has been done to protect our biodiversity?
We monitor using modern equipment, smart equipment, including drones or field work by staff. And the purpose here is to make sure we have in our view on a permanent basis wildlife, and through that we bring in protection, so we reduce the amount of losses we have been incurring to illegal activities.
Moreover, the Worldwide Fund for Nature think there is a need to improve the management of parks, protected areas, and sanctuaries.
Through the promotion and support of good governance, communications, accountability, transparency, and bring in the participation of indigenous people using their knowledge to better understand the forest.
Biodiversity is celebrated worldwide under the theme Agreement to Action, Build Back Biodiversity.
We will be talking more about conserving our biodiversity in the second part of the news with Dr. Peter Mbide. And now we talk sports. Coton Sport of Garoua on Sunday picked up their 18th Elite One title as they defeated Canon Sportif of Yaoundé in the last match of the playoffs by 2-0. Coton Sport recorded a clean sheet in 3 matches played. Smart Jikan Gabriel comes back with a review of the playoffs.
Douala was the point of convergence for all 4 clubs that qualified for the playoffs to determine the champions of the Elite One Championship. For 1 week, Coton Sport and Gazelle FC of Garoua, Canon Sportif of Yaoundé and Bamboutus of Mpuda went head-to-head to battle for the trophy. After 3 playing days, Coton Sport of Garoua with 9 points were crowned champions. The defending champions were the only side to have won all 3 matches, scoring 4 goals and conceding none. In a whole, 14 goals were scored in the 3 matches played by each club. Gazelle FC of Garoua left the tournament without any victory as they lost all 3 games, managing to score just 1 goal against Bambutus of Mbuda. On the last day, a total of 100 million francs CFA was shared amongst the last 4 teams left in the race. Coton Sport of Gadwa backed home 50 million francs CFA. The runners-up Bambutus of Mbuda pocketed 25 million francs CFA. Third place Canon Sportif of Yaoundé was given 15 million francs CFA, while Gazelle Football Club of Gadwa took home 10 million francs CFA. In the course of the playoffs, the record for spectators turnout was also broken during match day 2, with over 31,000 people answering present in the game that pitted Coton Sport of Gadwa to Bambutus of Mbuda. The fan club of Bambutus of Mbuda went home with the sum of 1 million francs CFA that was set aside for the best fan club of the playoffs.
Congrats once again to Sam, and Sad Sports Reports brings us to the end of the first part of the news. Viewers, don't go away. Talking Points comes up next. Stay with us. Welcome back, viewers. Today we are talking about biodiversity and the importance of preserving or protecting our biodiversity. And our guest tonight is Dr. Peter Mbile. He is a senior field program coordinator for the WWF in Cameroon. Doctor, thank you so much for accepting to be our guest tonight on Talking Point. And my very first question is, when we talk about biodiversity, what are we talking about? What does it mean?
Thank you very, very much. Yes, what is biodiversity? Biodiversity, to put it simply, is the sum total of all living things on planet Earth. The sum total of all living things on planet Earth. And why is biodiversity important? Well, simply, biodiversity provides the needs of the principal component of life, who are human beings. They provide food, they provide us with energy, they provide us with fiber, they provide us with everything we need to live a meaningful and useful life on planet Earth. However, more and more, biodiversity is also providing us with resilience, because we are stressing planet Earth by overuse. And the range of biodiversity enables human beings and even animals and plants on which we depend to extend, the tolerance. We can live in places that are increasingly difficult in terms of temperature, in terms of dryness. And if we were not diverse, then some people or some species or subspecies would easily be wiped out. So the more diversity we have, the more we are resilient. Therefore, the conservation of biodiversity directly links to and is connected to our own survival on planet Earth. So the more of the biodiversity, plants, animals, and others that we can conserve, that we can manage, the more resilient our life is likely going to be on planet Earth.
Okay, Doctor, let's come back to the importance of protecting our biodiversity. And now, what has your organ, the WWF, been doing to build back biodiversity in Cameroon?
I will start from the southeast of Cameroon, where we have the Tree National, which is of Sanga, which is actually Lobeke National Park, being part of Cameroon and being part of the World Heritage Site, sharing that site with the Central African Republic and Congo. So where I'm going to talk about is the Cameroon side, that's Lobeke. Our emphasis here in Lobeke is conservation of the Lobeke National Park and its peripheral zones. Because it's such a huge area, very biodiverse, multiple use area, lots of actors, our emphasis here is governance. We focus in the Lobeke area on bringing together actors on different multi-stakeholder platforms to discuss in real time to address issues of biodiversity loss. And biodiversity loss in this area comes a lot as a result of illegal activities, illegal hunting being one of them. So through the promotion and support of good governance, communications, accountability, transparency, and bringing in the participation of indigenous people using their knowledge to better understand the forest, we believe that we actually reduce the incidence of degradation. We actually support another aspect of our work, which is cross-cutting, which is law enforcement. So it's more effective, there is less destruction, and in that case, we can favor assisted natural regeneration of lost biodiversity, whether it's wildlife or whether it's wildlife in terms of fauna or in terms of flora.
And now, Dr. Peter Mbile, as the Senior Field Program Coordinator, you people have been undergoing some actions in the southwest region of the country, especially in the Fako division where elephants have been disappearing somehow. Can you tell us more about some of those actions you guys have been undertaking on the ground?
So many years. In fact, we started in the southwest as early as 1986, which means we have built a lot of human capacity. And rather than having direct interventions in the field, in the southwest, where we work in at least 4 national parks and their peripheries, we work a lot with civil society organizations. And the civil society organizations collaborate with community-based organizations. Through this way, we actually have people directly involved in conserving biodiversity. And what's interesting also in the southwest is we are familiar with conserving biodiversity outside of farms, because there is such intensity of population movement and interactions that we do not only focus on the national parks. The areas in between national parks have become also important. So by working with local councils, by working with community-based organizations, we actually are bringing back biodiversity in farms. We are making sure that biodiversity is not only conserved in national parks, but they are conserved outside of national parks.
And now, Dr. Peter Mbile, in our discussion of air, you talked about the freedom. What do you mean by freedom when it comes to the balance of biodiversity conservation or protection?
We have the freedom. The freedom is a huge, almost intact forest block, which is also a transboundary landscape for conservation, bringing together Cameroon, Gabon, and Congo. Here, we focus a lot on ecological monitoring. We monitor using modern equipment, smart equipment, including drones or field work by staff. And the purpose here is to make sure we have in our view on a permanent basis wildlife, and through that we bring in protection, so we reduce the amount of losses we have been incurring to illegal activities. This way there is recovery of wildlife, and in fact over the past 2 to 3 years there's been reports of wildlife species, as animal species, that we thought were even extinct from that area. They are coming back. So by maintaining permanent presence with very minimal resources in the freedom area, we are able to bring back wildlife. Moving further west, again towards the end of Cameroon at the border with Equatorial Guinea.
And now my very last question, Doctor, when we talk about biodiversity, we also talk about landscape restoration. What have you been doing in that light?
By landscape restoration, we intend to actually work on degraded lands, soils, degraded forests, degraded land, grasslands, but we are aligning our work with what we call the AFR 100, which is an Africa platform to which Cameroon is a signatory. So we are now at the stage of building stakeholders. We have actually done what we call an opportunities assessment in the north, where we have identified hectares of land at different stages of degradation. We have identified different stakeholders. We are building a platform where we will have different actors interact online, and we should be able to access and communicate with our stakeholders in real time. Restoration is something that takes a long time. To bring back biodiversity on land that has been degraded takes a long time. It takes a lot of money and it takes a lot of.
Thank you so much, Dr. Peter Mbile, for accepting to be our guest on Talking Point tonight. Just to let our audience know that you are the Senior Field Program Coordinator for the WWF in Cameroon. Thank you again and hope to have you some other time. Viewers, we thank you so much for always being there. Don't go away. Our programs continue. The news in the French language comes up at 8 p.m. Stay with us on Equinoxe Television. Bye-bye for now.
Equinoxe Télévision, au-delà de l'image, nous rendons compte. De lundi à vendredi sur Equinoxe Télévision.
Votre avis sur ce qui s'est passé à Douala, c'est 72 dernières heures.
Je ne sais pas si avant elle, il y avait des vols de bébés, mais après elle, je me suis dit, j'ai porté cette croix-là. Et il faudrait que aucune maman ne ressente plus cette douleur.
On continue à détourner des bébés dans les formations hospitalières, surtout publiques.
Ce n'est pas parce que quelqu'un a dit, c'est moi qui dis la vérité que je vais croire.
Elle a vécu sa grossesse. Elle n'a pas proclamé cette grossesse. Parce qu'on a l'impression de nous faire croire qu'elle a proclamé une grossesse qui n'existait pas.
Il y a les grossesses imaginaires où tu peux te dire que tu es enceinte, ton ventre sort vraiment, mais tu ne l'es pas.
Est-ce que le décret présidentiel peut être attaqué?
Un décret présidentiel peut être attaqué lorsqu'il viole la loi et qu'il ne constitue pas ce qu'on appelle un acte de gouvernement.
Est-ce que là on voit un caractère discriminatoire tel qu'a décrit le leader de Melingue, Cabral Libi, que c'est purement discriminatoire?
Avec les réseaux sociaux, on peut tout avoir. Maintenant, s'il y en a qui estiment que la personne concernée, effectivement, a une double nationalité, mais on sait ce qu'il reste à faire.
Ce qu'ils sont en train de mettre sur la toile, tout ce qu'ils ont comme information, ce qui peut être établi aujourd'hui, même si le camarade de Yves Abama n'a pas la double nationalité, mais il est quand même établi qu'il n'est pas résident.
Le RDPC a démontré qu'il gouverne seul, selon leur volonté.
Que ce soit n'importe quel Camerounais qui soit nommé à ce poste-là, c'est tout à fait légitime.
Quand les choses se passent, même ici, là où nous sommes, vous allez sur le terrain, les gens de la côte vont vous dire, nous sommes minoritaires. Et nous n'avons rien dans cette affaire-là. Donc nous ne voyons pas pourquoi nous allons nous casser la figure.
Lundi sur Equinoxe Télévision.
Moi, je n'ai pas vu le bus. On nous a annoncé le bus. Bon, maintenant, l'argent annoncé, j'espère qu'il est là.
Les MTN payaient 25 millions en Elite 1 et 14 millions en Elite 2. 70% était pour les clubs, 30% pour le fonctionnement.
Cette clique de personnes qui pensent que... Laisse-moi finir.